What's up, guys, and welcome to OneTake. I'm Gil, and today we're talking about movie news. We're talking Batman, Daredevil, and what else are we talking about, Alun?
Star Wars.
That's right, Star Wars. And that's my tech guy, my brother Alun, by the way. You won't see him, but you might hear him.
Yep.
And speaking of hearing, if you're just listening to this on our podcast, you're going to want to check out the YouTube channel so you can see my beautiful face and so you can join these live. And before we jump into it, if you're enjoying these videos, make sure to subscribe, hit that bell icon so you get notified whenever we go live. With that, let's jump into today's news. The first news story I want to talk about is, of course, Batman. Some set photos leaked from Scotland revealing Batman on a bat cycle in a graveyard. This is our first full look at the Batman suit. Now, up front, I'll say that usually I hate to look at these sorts of set photos. For all superhero movies, there's always these leaks of the costume from the set, and this is not how the suit, the Batman costume, was meant to be seen, right? In the movie, they've designed the costume to look exactly right, under the right lighting, the right angles, the right conditions, touched up with special effects, so you know that you're not seeing it in the proper way. But this was being reported everywhere, and of course, being a huge Batman fan, I couldn't help myself. I had to look at the suit. So, what did I think of the suit? The first thing I noticed is that it doesn't look as sleek as some of the other Batman suits we've seen. And this is in line with what we've heard about the movie. This is not necessarily Bruce Wayne new to the job, but he's not the seasoned pro that we're used to. So the suit has a sort of prototype look to it. It looks pretty piecemeal. You can see the chest plate, the shoulder plates. You can see the different components of it. Now, there have been rumors that we're going to see multiple suits in the movie, and I think the fact that this does look sort of like a prototype lends credence to that rumor. So if we don't see multiple suits in this movie, I'm sure that in the next one we'll see some major suit upgrade, and it'll start to look more and more sleek. And another rumor we've heard about Batman is that it's going to take some pages out of the Long Halloween storyline. And speaking of long, Alun, boy, are those some long ears. You weren't a fan of the long ears he had on his helmet, right?
Nah.
Or his cowl.
Nah, and they look kind of round on the top, too. They look too playful.
They look like springy, too, you said.
Yeah.
Like if you were to grab one, it would kind of go boing. Yeah, and now this does actually lend more credence to the rumors that this could be taking inspiration from Long Halloween, because in the Long Halloween storyline, Batman did have noticeably long ears. I've never been a big fan of that look. It does always come off as kind of goofy to me, but like I said up front, we'll have to see the suit in action before we can truly judge it. How are they going to touch it up with special effects? Especially if you look at his eyes, those look kind of bizarre in this picture. And when he's riding on that bat cycle, the arms look huge and kind of ridiculous in proportion to his body. So we've got to see the suit from the right angle, the right lighting. We've got to see it touched up with special effects, I think, before we judge it too harshly. I think at this point, I'll probably try to hold off from looking at any more set photos. But this time around, I just couldn't help myself. Now, Alun, when they released that first footage of the new Batman outfit, by the way, people were afraid that maybe this new Batsuit wouldn't even have ears because they were cut off in the original footage that was released. Those people have egg on their face. Anyway, but that first footage that was released, there was a sort of red hue to all of it, and it made a lot of people think that maybe this new Batman movie is secretly a Daredevil movie. Now, that's obviously ridiculous, but it leads into our next news story, which is Daredevil. If you remember, Daredevil ended with season 3, a fantastic season, and it was unceremoniously canceled October 2018, shortly after it was released. And since then, we've heard nothing. I mean, Marvel released that vague announcement right after it was canceled, something along the lines of, we look forward to telling more stories with this character in the future. But is Daredevil going to come back? Is he going to show up on Disney Plus? Is he going to show up on Hulu? Well, WeGotThisCovered.com has multiple times reported that they have sources that tell them Marvel is seriously considering bringing Daredevil back. the latest round of rumors that they reported today is that not only are they considering bringing Daredevil back, but they're also thinking about bringing Elektra back into the fold. And in addition to that, they're now saying that Marvel is seriously considering bringing Kingpin back as not just a villain for Daredevil, but a big bad for the MCU as a whole. Specifically, they're looking to bring Kingpin in as a villain for Spider-Man 3 and Spider-Man 4. Now, before I go further, I should say that WeGotThisCovered.com is known to be a website that reports on a lot of rumors. They report on rumors when they relate to things that are simply in talks that aren't necessarily going to go anywhere. So we don't know how much credibility to give this story. It might go nowhere, but I love Daredevil. I miss Daredevil. That was one of my favorite things in the MCU. So when I see a story like this, I have to talk about it. So with that caveat up front, a couple thoughts about this. Number one, Kingpin being a Spider-Man villain would be in line with the comics. We've seen it before. In fact, we saw it in Into the Spider-Verse just recently, which you hated the way he looked in that movie, right?
His face was literally in the middle of his entire body.
Wouldn't it be great if they used CGI to take Vincent D'Onofrio from Daredevil and give him that look? And look like, what was the name of the Ninja Turtles villain?
I was just thinking that. Let me look it up.
And I wanted you to vamp for a second so I could take a sip of water. Keep talking.
So I'm researching, looking for the name of that bad guy from Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, that had a brain in his belly.
Wait, Brain.
Oh, yeah.
That was the guy in the middle.
Brain.
Krang.
Okay, so we might have a Kingpin. You heard it here first. King Krang in the next iteration of Daredevil. So, like I said, I want Daredevil back so badly. Now, the fact that we've heard nothing official and all we're hearing are rumors doesn't necessarily mean Daredevil's not coming back, because we don't know the details of the contract, but we know there was some contractual agreement between Netflix and Marvel that said if Netflix cancels Daredevil or any of the other Defenders series, Marvel is actually barred from using those characters for something like 2 years. So Daredevil's now been off the air for close to 2 years. It was canceled back in 2018. So I'm crossing my fingers that an announcement will be coming soon about Daredevil. We're almost at the end of the 2 years. It was one of the most watched shows on Netflix. So it seems like a no-brainer. The actors want to come back. Vincent D'Onofrio, who played Kingpin, he's been very vocal publicly about wanting to come back and play that character. So why wouldn't they bring it back? They should bring that back, and they should bring Punisher back.
Mm-hmm.
Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, bring him back. I'm not saying don't bring them back, but at least bring back Daredevil and Punisher. But if you bring back Punisher, just get a new writing staff.
Oh, yeah.
Or just do something to retool it, because season 1 was a lot better than season 2. I think you'd agree with me there.
Absolutely.
Now, let's take this story seriously. Okay, how would we feel about Kingpin coming back as a Spider-Man villain? My gut reaction to that, my first reaction would be, I don't really love that, because he was such a great Daredevil villain. And if Kingpin graduates to film and Daredevil gets left behind to be part of the MCU TV stuff, does that mean that Daredevil will no longer face off against Kingpin? And at first, I don't love that idea, but maybe it's actually not such a bad thing, because we've already seen Daredevil versus Kingpin in season 1. We saw it again in season 3. There were even flashes of it in season 2. Do we really need to see that battle play out again after it ended on such a strong note in season 3? So I wouldn't mind if we have a little bit of a break from Daredevil versus Kingpin and we get a new villain for Daredevil, like Bullseye, for example, or Poindexter. That was his name, right?
Yeah.
There were also rumors, by the way, that Daredevil may graduate to the world of film because Spider-Man's in a bind right now. Remember what happened in, actually, spoilers for Spider-Man Far From Home. Remember how that movie ended?
Yeah.
Big revelation. His whole identity was revealed to the public. He was basically accused of murder by Mysterio. What's he going to need? He's going to need a lawyer. So he may, there's rumors.
Murdock.
Exactly. There's rumors that he may either bring Daredevil or She-Hulk. Because She-Hulk is getting her own series on Disney Plus. and She-Hulk is a lawyer.
Huh.
So we'll see. I've got my fingers crossed for Daredevil. But like I said, I should say it again, we got this covered. They report on a lot of rumors. So until another news source reports on this in a serious way, I'm not going to get too excited. Well, speaking of not too excited, that brings us to our final news story of the day, Star Wars. So apparently Lucasfilm has hired J.D. Dillard and Matt Owens to develop a new Star Wars movie. Like many of the Star Wars movie announcements we've heard over the last few months, we know basically zero details about this Star Wars movie. All we know are the folks involved. J.D. Dillard, he's a director. He's done a couple of small movies. The last movie he did was a movie called Sweetheart, which came from Blumhouse Movies. They're the ones who did the last Halloween movie. They did all the Paranormal Activity movies. They focus on these low-budget horror movies. Now, this movie, Sweetheart, I'm unfamiliar with it. I haven't seen it, but it actually has a 94% on Rotten Tomatoes. And the plot sounds fairly interesting. So, Sweetheart. Jen has washed ashore a small tropical island, and it doesn't take her long to realize she's completely alone. She must spend her days not only surviving the elements, but must also fend off the malevolent force that comes out each night. That's pretty intriguing. And I think you and I, Alun, should watch that movie so we can judge whether or not we should look forward to this next Star Wars movie. So it's being created by J.D. Dillard, who we just talked about, and Matt Owens. Here's your MCU connection. Matt Owens was a writer for Luke Cage and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. You know, and those shows had moments of strong writing. Moments. Mm-hmm. So, like I said, nothing is known about this movie. We don't know if it's going to be released theatrically or perhaps it'll be a Disney Plus exclusive. Recently, what we've been hearing from Lucasfilm is that they want to put the Star Wars theatrical releases on hiatus for a bit. They just ended the Skywalker saga. Give it a break. Focus on TV. So is that a hint that maybe this is something that's destined for the Disney Plus service? We'll see. I have a feeling they're talking about a theatrical release and it's just a few years away, but we'll see. Now, Alun, are you excited for this new Star Wars movie?
I gotta wait for more info.
You don't know anything about it. How can you know anything? My feeling on Star Wars currently is that it's not really a film series anymore. Star Wars has now just become a brand because they can release spin-offs. We know that whatever they come out with next is going to be unrelated to the Skywalker saga or just tangentially related. So Star Wars is no longer a series where I'm curious to see what happens next, where I'm excited to see characters I'm familiar with. It's a brand. And right now, I think it's a brand that has mixed results. So it doesn't really tell you whether or not you should be excited for the movie. I mean, it sort of feels like this announcement might as well be, there's a new movie coming from J.D. Dillard. It doesn't really matter that it's Star Wars. And in a way, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Because one of the great things that DC is doing right now is it seems like they're putting a little bit more control into the hands of the filmmakers. So even though I wasn't a big fan of Birds of Prey, I can say that Birds of Prey was a pretty different tone and a pretty different movie from everything else I've seen in the DC universe. And the same can be said for Joker. Totally different tone, totally different type of movie. So in the way that Star Wars no longer means a whole lot about the movie you're about to see, the same can be said for DC. When you hear it's a DC movie, it's not like Marvel where that tells you you're about to get an action comedy. So is Star Wars turning into something where you just bring in a director, you bring in a writer, and you say, hey, here, play with the Star Wars toys, do something interesting, do something different. Here's creative freedom. If that's what they're going to do with Star Wars, that could be interesting. But with all the directors that have been hired and fired, and all the writers that have been hired and fired, and the rewrites, and all the rumors about Lucasfilm studio Kathleen Kennedy meddling in these pictures, right now they don't seem like an environment that's very pro creative freedom for filmmakers. So I guess what I'm saying is I don't think we're going to see a Joker or a Logan come out of the Star Wars universe anytime soon. And I'll even say I have doubts about whether or not this movie's even going to get made. Because how many Star Wars movies have they announced? You had the Benioff and Weiss trilogy. You had the Rian Johnson trilogy. And the latest rumblings I've heard, I would be shocked if that movie or that trilogy actually gets made. They talked about Knights of the Old Republic. I'm sure there are other Star Wars movies they've talked about that I'm forgetting about.
What happened to that Obi-Wan one?
Well, the Obi-Wan movie they've now turned into a Disney Plus series, which they started filming and then canceled and said they have to go back to the script because the script wasn't good. The same thing happened, by the way. They're doing a Rogue One spinoff about the guy from that movie. I forget his name. The one who hung out with the robot.
Not the Force is with me. I'm one with the Force.
No, not that guy. The one who is the main guy. Doesn't matter. But they were doing a show about him, and apparently that one has also been halted. They've halted production on that show to go back to the scripts and redo the scripts. So I have doubts about whether or not this movie will actually get made. But if whether or not we should be excited for it will depend on just learning more detail about it. Which I don't even know why I ask you. I mean, that's always your answer. Well, I gotta wait for a trailer. I gotta wait for the Rotten Tomatoes score. That's always been my goal here at OneTake. It's to find the thing that Alun's excited for.
Well, if you're asking me what, if I'm excited, do you want me to place a bet on whether I think it'll be good or not?
Yeah,
it's almost like what
speculate.
You're asking.
Blind speculation.
Blind speculation. I don't think it'll be good.
Wow, it's great optimism. That's the note you want to end on. I don't think it's going to be good.
I have more faith in it if it's a TV show. Because it seems like they did better with Mandalorian than the movies.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, hey, you know what? They didn't say it's going to be a theatrical release. It might be a made for Disney Plus movie. So
there you go.
We'll see. Anyway, I think that about covers it for today. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and hit the little bell icon so you get notified when we do more videos, and so you get notified when we go live. You can participate in the chat. You can be part of the conversation. Also, check out Shurcast.com, Shurcast.com, where we have a bunch of podcasts we do. We have a podcast on Better Call Saul. We have a podcast on Game of Thrones, the prequel that's going to be released. We have a podcast called Gillville. If you need to laugh, you don't want to laugh anymore, you want to be scared, Gillville Campfire, the horror spinoff. And we have a OneTake podcast where you can hear all this without seeing anything, and we have some exclusive audio content. Anyway, thanks for watching.